Okay, so passion and tranquility. I think I was asked to do this because most people know that my life has been pretty tranquil, and I think I walk in a peace that is contagious. I hope so. I hope so. That the peace and the passion that I walk in, that is something that everybody feels good and comfortable around. And I would say I really haven't had any trials or tribulations like the other two have experienced. There's probably been one trial that I've walked through in my marriage that was difficult to walk through, but we got through it. And I would not say that my passion has waned from the time that I was a child. I was raised in a Christian home. I had major encounters with the Lord in my teen years. Probably the first major encounter I had was around 16 years old, and the Lord really dropped something deep into my heart and transformed the course of my life. And that's kind of what I want to talk about a little bit, is sometimes the Lord drops something in our hearts that is the passion. It's this little jar he gives you that's called a starter jar. For those of you who are familiar with sourdough bread, he gives you your starter jar. And that happens, I love analogies. It helps us to, you're going to hold this forever. So he gives you your starter jar when you have an encounter with him. And that's the presence that both previous speakers spoke about. And last night with Mim. That is the key. You have to have the encounter to get the jar. He gives you this little jar of liquid dough, right? And it's bubbling. Now, I have not had good experiences with sourdough, so I'm not a pro at all. I just go buy it or ask a friend to make it for me because I don't have the patience or skill to keep that thing alive. But I know some of the things about it, and so I'm going to use that as our analogy today. That you have a lot of choices of what to do with that jar. And sometimes what he drops in your heart is something to do immediately, so you start feeding the jar right away. Sitting on your counter, you start putting into it what you need to put into it, right? So it starts growing so that you can use it for what the Lord wants you to do with it right then and there that day or the next day. Sometimes he gives you something really big, and you know it's not going to be something that I'm feeding immediately. So what do we do with it? We put it in the fridge. You know it's something you're going to use one day. You know it's something that God's put in your heart. What he gave me at 16 was big. I knew it wasn't something I was going to be doing immediately. It might have been something that I did feed a little bit on. I went to Bible school and started doing some of the things I was supposed to do for ministry that I knew he was calling me to. But there came a season where I'm like, okay, this isn't happening right now. I need to put this in the fridge and save it for later. It's kind of like we say we put it on a shelf, right? Somebody gives you a prophetic word and you're like, yeah, I'm going to put that on the shelf. I like it, but I'm not ready to do anything with it. So we can save the passion for later. So there's some different things that you can look at with that, and we're going to kind of revisit that as we're walking through my points. So the first point I have is prioritize the pause to pursue his presence. Prioritize the pause to pursue his presence. We're going to do a lot of P's. And that goes back to last night's thing. It is crucial. If you do not have this down yet in your relationship with the Lord, just stop everything you're doing, because you're doing it in your own strength and out of your own pent-up passion. You're trying to do you all on your own, and you're not going to get where you need to go, and you're not going to be doing it with him. Prioritize the pause. You have to stop. He will be faithful to provide the passion and the power, which we're going to get to later. He is our source of passion. Tranquility is a tricky place, because when we're dealing with trials and tribulations, we run to the Father. We run to him because that's all we know to do, right? When everything's going smooth and great, we don't. Our needs are really low. We learn to live in this content place, and that can be really, really dangerous. Because we've talked, I don't know if you guys remember, 2 years ago I talked about the big comfy couch. You get stuck in this couch of comfort. And he's calling you to do something else, and your knees are up, you're snuggled in, with a blanket, but Lord, this is good. What I'm doing is good. Joey and I were in youth ministry for 12 years. It was good. It was wonderful. Did we have some bumps? Sure. Everybody, you do. But it was still overall really, really good. I had no reason to leave that ministry. I had no reason to even ask God, am I still supposed to be doing this? Because everything was going good. And we often use that as our trigger or our gauge. If I'm at peace and things are going good, then I must be in the will of God. And that is not always the case. He might be knocking and banging on your door and you're not even paying attention to it because you're so full of everything that's going on around you and you're busy and distracted with all the things that are going well. So it can be a dangerous place to be in, a place of tranquility. We often fall into places of apathy or passivity. Obligations set in. All the spiritual disciplines can become a bore or a chore, right? We're checking off the things on our list. We're doing it because we have to. We're doing it because it's easy. And God will use that. Obviously, God uses all of that. But if we get in his face, and it's not getting in his face to dump, go ahead and do that. You do need to do that. But how often do you get in his face and ask? Yeah. Ask the W's. Who, what, where, when, why, how. How often do you guys do that? Do you ask him daily? What are we doing today, God? Weekly? Monthly? I know we do it at the beginning of the year. Right? We fast. We ask the Lord, what do you have for us this year? We write down in our journal furiously all the things. Do you revisit that journal? 2 months later, 6 months later, the next year, oh yeah. Ask often. Ask. So we talk about waiting in the presence of God. It's not just, it's not just waiting like, la, 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 okay, God, tell me what to do. No, it's God, what is your heart in this? Okay, I'm doing this ministry. You've called me to house church. What is it you want to do in my house church? What is it you want to do in the people's lives in my house church? What is it you want to do with my neighbors? Lord, is there a person that you want to put on my heart today? Who do you want me to minister to today? When you start asking him questions, you're going to start hearing specific answers. And that's where the passion is birthed in all these different areas. Now, you have a choice, like Kim said, to make. I think oftentimes we get in his presence and we hear from him and we get downloads from him and we're so excited and we say, wow, that was so good. God was so good last night. 2 days later, we're back to our everyday life. Did we do anything with what he gave us? Did the obedience follow through? Or did we just leave it there? And again, we go back a couple months later and look in our journal. Yeah, I didn't do anything with that. So number 2 is partner with him in passionate obedience and action. The choice to obey and activate the passion that he gave, or leave that place enjoying it for what it was, but doing nothing about it. Not what you want to do. Back to the sourdough, you have to do something with the sourdough to keep it activated so that it's ready to be used. You have to open the jar and is it flour and sugar, Jess? Flour and water. See, I don't remember. That's why I killed it. No. No sugar. No. You got to feed, you got to put a little bit in there to keep it going. Okay? Sorry, I didn't have time to do all the research on it, and I knew I only had 10 minutes, which I'm probably already getting there. Anyway, you got to feed it. You got to do things to actually keep it activated. You got to activate through obedience. Number 3 is persevere through investment. In order for you to have passion in a relationship, there has to be investment into that relationship. For those of you who are married, you know that. You're not going to have passion without investment of time and action and maybe even money. Like, it involves some of those things in order to keep the passion alive. Same thing with your relationship with the Lord. Same thing with your relationship with any ministries or things that he's asking you to do. There has to be investment. That's the flour and water that you're putting in there. That's the kneading of the dough. There's specific things that you are doing in order to grow the passion that he gave you. You want to grow it. So if you have a call to youth ministry, read some books on youth ministry. Get with people that are in that ministry so that you can feed even off of them. Hey, what are you learning? What have you learned over the years? The whole thing of developing leaders is getting with somebody who's ahead of you and being able to glean from them so that you can grow the passion that's within you. If you have a heart for missions, learn the language. Learn all about the country that the Lord is calling you to. Support ministries that are already happening across the globe. There's different things that you can do to feed your own passion. And that is something that I will say I feel like I have personally done. I like to read. I like to delve into some of that stuff. And so when there's something that I'm really interested about, I feed that in me. I turn around and teach it so that it's being something that is happening in my life and it stays with me then and it grows that passion within my own heart. And the fourth thing I have is position yourself among passionate people. If you want to be a person of passion, you've got to be around people who are passionate people. And going back to what Chris said, passion is not necessarily screaming at the TV while watching football. Yes, that is a form of passion. But that deep devotion that I'm not giving up no matter what, that is a passion worth having. You don't have to be enthusiastic. Okay, it's not a personality trait. Right? Sometimes we think that in order to be passionate, I've got to look like that person. No, you be you. You express passion the way the Lord is calling you to express passion. It's going to look very different for a lot of people. Some of you, it might be just investing a ton of your money into the things that the Lord wants you to put that into because you're passionate about that thing. It may not be even going and doing. It can look a lot of different ways. So be in a community that encourages these things. We need each other to keep the passion burning. 1 Thessalonians 5 talks a lot about that, encouraging one another, stirring up faith, stirring up passion, so that we're boiling hot for the Lord and for the things that he's calling us to. One thing I want to say again about the starter. It never ends. There's starters out there that have been going on for like hundreds of years. I'm not even kidding. I'm like, seriously? Mine died on my counter. It grew mold. I just can't be committed to that. I just can't. And it's okay. That's not my calling. But there are things when you do let it sit, it grows mold. When you don't do anything with what's been given to you, it decays. Another thing that can happen is you can open yourself up to things that allow bugs and harmful bacteria into that passion, and it kills it. Tranquility is a beautiful place to be, but remember, it can be a dangerous place. Don't get too comfortable. The enemy likes the tranquil places. He's sneaking around, waiting to devour. He's waiting for your guard to be down so that he can put a little fly in your starter. And that fly lays some eggs. And it destroys the passion that's in your heart. I have a brother, the Lord's working on him. He was a pastor. He was highly passionate, very enthusiastic teacher and preacher, moving in the prophetic, and he let some flies in. And he walked away from the Lord, and that's something that's really, really hard for our family to walk out. He's walking back. We know he's walking back. He's in that process, and we've been praying, and God is doing a whole lot in him. He hasn't let go. Again, that starter can be revived, can be given a new start, right? So we're believing for that. But be aware and know that there's some work you need to do to keep your passion alive. And it's easy stuff, guys. It's exciting stuff. And the more that you pursue him, the more that you actually passionately obey him, the more passion you're going to have, and the more power you're going to have. And those things that we want to see happen will happen. But you got to go through the steps in order to get to that place. Moses, Abraham, Daniel, Jonah, Peter, Jesus himself. They would have never accomplished the powerful things without obedience and pursuit of his presence. So get in his face regularly.